So my name is Akiko Stehrenberger. I've been designing and illustrating posters for 20 years now. That's a long time. And before doing movie posters, I was doing editorial illustrations for entertainment-based magazines. I worked on a lot before one of my posters actually got picked. But I think one of my first posters, oh my gosh, I can't even remember now. It's probably something, even if I do remember, I wouldn't want anybody to look it up because it was my first time probably using Photoshop and really learning typography. But if I think of the more notable poster that kind of gave me my career, it would be my Funny Games poster. I think that one was pivotal in the types of projects that came my way and also in creative directors starting to trust my decisions and my aesthetics. I'm coming in with brand new eyes. I may have caught glimpses of UFC fights here and there, but as far as knowing who any of the superstars are, I'm completely coming in not knowing anything.
The very first UFC event in 1993.
Wow, okay. I love that they were able to put an illustration as a poster. And I know the workaround of being able to do an illustration is also to include a gallery, which is all these little photographic bits too, because at the end of the day, people want to know who they are seeing and who they're paying tickets to. So it definitely feels from the 90s, that's for sure, with like the color and the typography. Probably for the 90s, it was probably a cool poster to be able to incorporate more than just photography. I know that just because I tend to work on a lot of art house films and I prefer them, I also work on a lot of big movies. And so I know what is necessary to kind of feel big and monumental in design choices. And for what the designer is trying to achieve, this works. I mean, you definitely feel that the smaller fighter has the fighter behind him looming. And so you definitely get the versus. Like you get that there is a big fight going. And one thing that I can definitely appreciate is the lack of color, doing something monochromatic with like the blues and like the slight aquas. So I think for what it is done tastefully. The type looks great. So I can't complain about this one. Okay, well, um, this one I feel could have been done much better. I'm not quite sure why Rousey has a head growing out of the side of her ear. Um, so I know that they're trying to use her robe as this graphic holding device for McMahon, I'm guessing, and I'm probably butchering all of their names. I do know Ronda Rousey, so that's 1%. You also have the smoke in the background trying to create atmosphere, but then you have the smaller set of fighters in the front. It's weird. It's a little strange. I think if it didn't feel so dimensional and felt more like a collage, certain choices might work better. But because everything is kind of a photo real, you're asking more questions than getting answers. Um, this is interesting. I mean, I like the hand done font. It's a little unexpected, especially for what I would think of for a typical fighting poster. I like the close crop, and I like the idea of them being represented, representing their own countries. So I like this. This is interesting because obviously it's a digital illustration. So I tend to be a little more critical when it comes to illustration. It looks like they're trying to go for this somewhat comic book hard edge line. So when I see it mixed with like a gradient and playing with opacity, I do feel like it kind of confuses the style of the illustration. And then here we have realistic flags behind them. I'm wanting them to be illustrated too. So I think for me, it just feels like they're trying to force too many styles into one poster. So like if there's three different styles or more, you feel like it's a collage or it's a purposeful change. But when it's just two, you're wondering, well, why don't they match? Spoke of comics, but I mean, This is great. They are doing exactly what they're going for. Even with the typography, with drop shadows and dimension, I feel like they took the comic book style and ran with it, and it's well done. And even the composition, you feel this like wave, like your eye starts from the lower bottom and it curves up to the top left. So I think it's well done. I like it. I think this is classic. I think it's well done. I like how heavily contrasted each of them are. I would have liked the guy on the left to be a little more contrasty to match McGregor's photo treatment, but for the most part, it's clean. It does its job. The type is tasteful, so I give it a thumbs up. I feel it's not bad. Designers love like to add texture to make it feel more gritty. A different texture might have worked better. I'm not sure if that texture is supposed to feel like the wall behind them or a treatment to the overall photo. I like how it's this upside down poster. You definitely get the verses and the two different sides by having to flip it on its side. It's almost there. I would say it's like 90% to being a really great poster. Okay. I mean, obviously they're going for an epic, explosive feeling. I feel that they achieve that with this. I'm not mad at it. It achieves what it's trying to do. And I like that it's a different angle than the side-by-side profile, like that we're looking at them. It makes them feel more victorious. So yeah, I appreciate that. Oh, that's funny. So we got a Lego version of them. I'm not quite sure what the concept is behind it being in this style, but
This is the UFC in Copenhagen in
oh,
Denmark.
Copenhagen. Okay, Denmark. Okay, then that makes perfect sense. I think that's a fun, cute idea, and I'm glad it went through. I like when something that's destination specific that informs the concept. And here with Copenhagen, this is perfect. So, and like you said, it's unexpected for a fighting poster. So I think it's ballsy that they're able to do this. Well, I know how hard it is to put multiple people in a poster and make them feel like they're all lit the same. So I'm very happy that this designer got them all shot and shot with the similar lighting. That makes all the difference in the world. I like the energy of it going from big to small. And I like how the type kind of mimics that underneath it. The only thing that I would probably do, and that's just nitpicking, is behind the UFC Live on Pay-Per-View 100, you have all these little images behind there that I'm not exactly sure what they are. And because of the way that they're treated, it's a little distracting. I would have probably just preferred it to be on black or have a little more reason for why those images are there. I mean, I'm getting little glimpses of other posters, so maybe that's what it has to do with. And of course, we obviously
I think they are just old posters. Yeah.
they're old posters, and obviously we want the UFC 100 to read. So I get why they've been darkened, but at the same time, if I don't really recognize what's behind it, I'd rather not see it, if that makes sense. This is great. I think that, again, what I said with the previous one, to have something photographed in the angle and the lighting that you want, it really makes all the difference in the world. From this perspective of looking up at them, you really feel that they're larger than life and powerful. I do like that. And I like how even with the 200 glowing behind them, they're affected by the light from the 200. So I think it does what it's supposed to do.
I get the apocalypse movie vibe. I just
Oh
picture
yeah.
zombies.
Yeah, I can see that. I think one thing I probably would have done is that the what's on the ceiling feels a little bit more in focus than our actual fighters. So I would have liked to have seen that actually blurred a little bit so our fighters in the foreground feel more clear and more in focus. Okay. All right. I mean, it's ballsy, and it's definitely unexpected to not see any of the fighters. Because I'm a minimalist, would appreciate this poster because you see front and center the UFC logo. So anybody that's the UFC fanatic is going to be going regardless. They're going to appreciate what's happening regardless. So I don't feel like you have to do so much heavy lifting with the imagery. So I might have a completely different opinion than you might on this, where you feel shortchanged. I do feel like there is something incredibly brave about just putting UFC and 300 on it. They're like, what more else do you need? This is what's going on. I,
I still don't like it, but it makes sense.
okay, great. I don't know why the choice of font for the 300 is like that, but yeah.
How does it work, the creative process of doing a movie poster? Do you get to watch the film before it's released?
So I'm brought in at different times. Sometimes they haven't shot anything and all I have is a 2-line synopsis. Other times I might be doing a specialty poster after it's already been out in the theaters to just kind of create more awareness and bring in a new audience for a title. It's really interesting because I do see movies in different stages. A lot of times it wouldn't have been edited or doesn't have the correct color or music. So you really more than anything realize how much editing really creates something and takes it away from you watching a play versus seeing a film. Same with shows.
How hard it is to do a poster for a movie you haven't watched?
You know what? Usually when I have very little to work with is when I have the ability to be more creative, because then I'm not tied to actors or certain strong restrictions that happen when a movie is like a big budget. If I'm brought in very early on, I can do something more conceptually driven. And it's more about just what I get as kind of a key theme from the overall story, and then trying to create something that excites people or intrigues people, where it's more of a teaser than telling the whole story. There are so many that have special places in my heart for so many different reasons. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I really was so proud that Neon, the studio that put it out, let me do something that was so simple and also an optical illusion. I was able to create an oil painting of a flame that in the negative space was like 2 profiles of 2 women kissing. Even after creating that and seeing that it went to the finish line, to see that people loved the poster even without realizing the optical illusion, and then to later revisit it and then notice it and get a new love for it, even coming back to it, that makes me happy. I'm always happy when people can revisit my posters and discover something new. I mean, it may not be what a UFC fan would collect, but that's something that I would collect. I think it's beautiful. I love the colors. I'm also biased because I love Japanese posters in general. I think they have an advantage because of the kanji. Things already look much cooler. But I do think this is well done. You are seeing all the fighters, and this is completely unexpected. I love this triumphant pose in front of this landscape. You know, it might be a little quiet for what UFC fans expect, but this is something I would hang on my wall. So that's just me personally loving and respecting it being so different. Wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's got a concept, which is beautiful and it's beautifully done. I don't know if walking by this poster right away that I would get it's for UFC. You know, I might think it's for something different. Nothing about it that screams UFC to me other than his trunks. So maybe that's the idea, and maybe that's where they feel they can be bold because there is something that shouts it out, you know? Again, me coming from an art house background, I love this. You know, we see the motion of the fist just going all over the place, and I like it a lot. I find it very creative. Oh, wow. I mean, I think it's well done. It's a little funny, you know, it's a smidge going towards silly, but it tells you what you need to know, and I like how clean it is, and I like how clean the typography is. So I think it's very bold and it grabs your attention. Oh, okay. Again, if I would walk past this, I wouldn't think it's for a fight at all, but I do appreciate the concept. I think it's smart. And I think anybody who would pass it would be like, well, what is this about? So even though there's not a quick recognition of what it's for, it does stop you and make you want to figure out and investigate what is on this poster, all the information. So from a conceptual perspective, I like it a lot. So starting over, okay. I mean, I feel like there's obviously a concept. I'm not sure what is starting over. I don't know if that meant some fighter is making a comeback that previously lost a title or something. So I'm not quite sure what starting over, how starting over is connected to the Pride event. So I'm a little confused. I think at like first glance, I would think that it's an advertisement for a retirement home or a convalescent home or something. Yeah. This I love. You know, that's what your traditional idea of Japanese art is, and to incorporate it with a fighter and have the fighter feel cohesive in that illustration style, I think is great. I like it. I like it a lot. The composition's a little funny. I wish the fighter were dead center. He's kind of just a little smidge past dead center. But beyond that, like maybe I would have put Who is Real Samurai in a different place because things are a little bit kind of disjointed. But for the most part, I think it's yeah, I like it. This is cool. I mean, you're definitely getting like samurai movie, and you're seeing the fighters. I think it's completely unexpected, and I love how graphic it is. Again, for my personal aesthetics, I think it's beautiful. I don't know if someone that's in, you know, a big fan of these events would necessarily appreciate it, but at the same time, I appreciate that they're stepping outside of that. This is cool. Yeah, I like it a lot. We're still able to see the fighters, even though they're really treated in a graphic, one color way. Yeah, it's eye-catching. And front and center, like the actual midpoint of the poster, we're seeing two fighters. So you get what this poster is about pretty quickly. And I love all the animals and everything. I think it's definitely unexpected. I think that's very elegant. I love it because it's aspirational. It shows a little kid one day wanting to be this strong fighter. So I also love how it's on its side. It makes it feel more designy than this kind of corniness that could happen if it were the other way around. So I love the yellow against the black and white. And yeah, I think it's well done. I love the typography. I love it. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, and again, love that we don't have any sense of a fighter in the imagery. Still trying to find a connection to breastfeeding a baby, but maybe that connects back to the old hand with the young finger around it. Maybe there's this bigger concept that I'm not aware of, especially for that campaign about starting over. But the type is nice. I like this idea because it's all about who's going to make it to the egg or who's going to make it to the end. So conceptually, I think it's funny, it's clever, and visually, it's well done. No, it's a funny idea. I know the concept they're going for, it could have been executed a little bit better. The way the fist is, it kind of looks like a weird face. And I know it's supposed to obscure a fighter so that you're getting the idea of fighting without calling out a specific fighter. But maybe there's a better angle for the hand so that it can, yeah, because if you squint your eyes, it looks like a body with a weird, funny face with a butterfly on its head. But I like the idea of this like hard boxer with this really soft, elegant, colorful butterfly. I think it's cute and unexpected. I don't know if I would have put the fighters down there in that way. I probably would have put them in some graphic holding device to kind of separate them from the illustration, because the legibility is a little hard, and then that guy in the middle is exactly where the crotch is. So if there was something that, a solid color or a solid box behind them, I feel like it would have been better. Okay, this is unexpected. Okay, so I see the ship. I see the ship now. So it's about survival, I guess.
I can't see a ship.
You cannot. It's
No. I mean, in the middle.
in the middle,
Oh,
the
okay.
top fifth of the poster.
I've never seen that ship before.
Yeah, it's tiny. And I think with all the textures going on, it's probably the last thing that you'll find. One thing that really gets under my skin, when somebody wants to create these giant waves and they just make the boat small, but they don't pay attention to the ripples. The ripples need to be teeny tiny too, so that you really feel like those waves are big. But because the ripples are so big, you realize that they just made the ship very, very small to try to create the illusion of that. I feel like it could have been done better. I feel like it had potential. Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a successful poster. I feel like idea-wise, it could have been something cool, but I feel like with the texture in the background against this statue, it kind of gets lost, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be really looking at. I feel like that's better, much better. I like it. I like how they're cropped the same. I like how the lighting is the same. The soldier, I probably would have done an all black background instead of this texture, because when anything in the background has more texture than what's in the foreground, my eye goes to the background instead of the foreground. Maybe done something where it matched the samurai, where it was more clean with a little bit of a gradation in it. Beyond that, I think they're interesting. I feel like this could have been interesting. I get that it's a fist in the air in the rain. Like at first glance, it looks like I'm kind of looking at the backside of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's like a weird shape, So I'm wondering if there is a better position of the fist that could have been a faster read. It could be a really interesting poster. Another thing too is with Photoshop, when there's rain and you want the rain to feel like it's in the foreground, you would have wanted them to be bigger. And right now, the scale of the rain is making the fist feel like it's the size of a dinosaur. So that's why I keep connecting it back to this dinosaur.
I can't unsee the T-Rex now.
Yeah, can you? It's like the back of him and he's kind of looking a little bit to the side. I think it's an interesting concept. And the treatment and the color is pretty too. I just feel like there's just these little tiny things that could have just made it a little bit stronger. No, but it's very interesting. I mean, there were a lot of posters you presented to me that I would have never thought would have been made for this. So it was really cool to see the big scale of what you are, the more like classic or cliche looking posters versus the more creative. I mean, especially me doing it now for so long, when there's a bad movie poster, I rarely now, from the insider looking out, do I blame the designer. I more put the responsibility on the client, because the clients have a hard time breaking out of what's been done before, especially if it's successful in the past. So I think that's why we're so used to seeing some of the same stuff over and over again. They know it works. So I know that a designer can only do so much when it comes to certain things. I think their target audience is also different from someone that's gonna collect a poster next and put it next to a piece of art. It's just a different audience.
So maybe one day we get to see you do an MMA poster.
Yeah, maybe. And then people can critique me and tell me what I did was all wrong. One day. I mean, just seeing the Japanese posters, it lets you know there's hope for something that's definitely not as traditional,